So the Pixel 10 launch is right around the corner. In fact, it's just a few days away, and I don't want to spoil things too much, but yeah, sadly, we're going to spoil a few things in this video, so there's a lot of stuff to delve into, so strap in and stay tuned. Before then though, we are gearing up for a huge Made by Google 2025 launch season, so stick around by hitting that subscribe button to be part of our growing crew. Thanks for the support, I really love you guys, and let's get back to it. So as with any leaks so close to launch, I do think things can change at any moment. These are the most up-to-date tidbits and information, or at least the broadest information as of this video going live. It isn't going to be delving too deeply into the whys and hows, just as much key information as possible for you to help make the decision if you're going to tune into the keynote at all. So skip to the section that you need and want to know the most about down below. It is worth noting that we are sticking to phones here as much as possible to keep things nice and simple. You probably know what's coming, but the Pixel 10 lineup for 2025 consists of that base Pixel 10, the Pixel 10 Pro, the 10 Pro XL and 10 Pro Fold. The phones are being joined by the Pixel Watch 4 in 2 sizes, plus there is even some room for a new pair of A-series Pixel Buds, the Pixel Buds 2a. As far as lineups go, it's pretty by the numbers. There's no major surprises here, and hopefully a little bit of consolidation from the great work that was put in last year with the Pixel 9 series. In terms of design, Google though is going all in on that Pixel 9 series look and feel for a second year in a row. So yes, for all intents and purposes, the Pixel 10 series is identical to last year's design. You could really easily argue that this is a bad move, but I do think if it ain't broke, don't fix it, or at least that's how the saying goes. Previous design leaks do suggest that the chassis has changed slightly in all of the dimensions. That probably is going to be super annoying if you wanted to use older and cheaper accessories across both of these generations. It is what it is, it's just kind of par for the course, but yeah, there will be some extras that we're going to get into slightly later in this video that probably might make up for that. Some of the other minor revisions though do include extra camera lens on the Pixel 10, and there is some movement of the 5G antenna in the frame itself, which should, or at least could, help signal and connectivity on this lineup. Overall, there are no major design changes as I noted. It is the same again, just a bit thicker in most of the axes. I do think colours are a bit of a contentious issue with the Pixel lineup, and they have been for a few years, and I'm kind of asking the question why Google is intent on only offering the Pro lineup in, I'd say, staid or plain options, at least compared to the fun, playful base model. That's a complaint, but it does mean the Pixel 10 is going to be the only device available in the most vibrant finishes this year. There is the trademark Obsidian, which is Google's standard black. There's an indigo blue color, which is a throwback to the original Pixel series, which I really do think is a great move. There's a muted frost color, which I think replaces the porcelain this time around, the white model, and a bold limoncello green, which definitely gives me lemongrass vibes, at least from the Pixel 7 series. It looks a little bit less bright in renders, but I am hoping that this is a little bit brighter in real life. The Pro models will be available in the same Obsidian black. The familiar porcelain is available on the Pro tier. There's a soft jade green, which is interesting as it seems like every Android maker wants a green phone this year, and a blue-grey or grey-blue moonstone option, which Google has showcased in their own official renders. These colours are definitely more muted, and yes, as you may have noticed, they still have glossy side rails if that is a problem for you. But the Pixel 10 series has the matte edges if you are really intent on getting that, and there are some upgrades which might make it a better option for many people. Like last year, the Pixel 10 Pro Fold will once again only be offered in 2 colours, but interestingly, in Moonstone and Jade, this probably is going to be the first time that you would be able to get the Fold, or at least not be able to get the Fold in white or black options for whatever it's worth. It's interesting that they've gone down this route for the Fold and not tried to put a few more colours in with the Pro series across the board. As for specifications, yes, another year, another hope that Tensor is finally going to provide that performance uplift that I think we deserve it at this stage. The problems with Samsung Foundry, at least once these devices release, should be forgotten as TSMC is taking over chip fabrication for the Tensor lineup. Does this mean though that we're going to get that performance parity with the best on Android? I've got to say, it seems highly unlikely, but there will be some improvements here. Could it be more than 50% faster? I'm not entirely sure. I do think efficiency still needs work. The top tier Snapdragon chips over the past couple of years have more or less shown us that efficiency is important for excellent battery longevity, and I do think if Tensor G5 can get close to those, it will be an important step forward. A leak of pre-release handsets does suggest that we are getting much needed storage updates though, and I think this could be a bigger update as UFS 4.0 does seem to be coming across the board, which will help overall speed and improvements and overall just make the device smoother in anything you're doing, be that apps, files and services. They'll all load faster across the board. On-device processing could potentially get a bump as a result of the faster storage. I personally think this is an important upgrade, or almost as important upgrade as a chipset, as it'll be felt long into the future as these phones start to age, as they're probably going to be supported for 7 years like their predecessors. Most of the other specifications are more or less by the numbers at this stage, but effectively on paper they're identical to figures we've seen previously with the previous gen. That means 12GB of RAM on the base model, 16GB of RAM on the Pro tiers. The base storage is 128GB on the Pixel 10, but it is going up to 256GB on the Pixel 10 Pro, the Pro XL, and the Pro Fold, which is really good to see, as storage is one of those things that you're going to be using a lot on those Pro tier devices. Don't expect any changes in screen size or resolution though on these slab phones. Each device's screen size is the same as its predecessor. That means 6.3-inch Full HD Plus screen on the Pixel 10, a 6.3-inch QHD Plus LTPO screen on the Pixel 10 Pro, an LTPO screen on the Pixel 10 Pro XL that's rated at 6.8 inches and QHD Plus as well. All of those are 120Hz across the board, which is always nice for smoothness. The Pixel 10 Pro Fold will have a marginally larger 6.8-inch outer screen, which is going to be great, but the same 8-inch inner screen, although it is worth noting bezels should be smaller inside and out, according to some of the early leaks. There are a few extras thrown in for good measure though. So first, faster PWM support for all of these phones, plus higher brightness levels across the board, around about 200 nits in most cases. I do think the Pixel 9 displays are great, and they're still among the best in the industry, so this is yet another quality of life improvement for the entire Pixel 10 lineup. When we look at the internal cells, there is a little bit of headroom for internal cell size growth here as well, so with efficiency gains with the chipset potentially, this could be another major improvement. The Pixel 10 is getting a bump to a 4,970 mAh battery, so 5,000 milliamps give or take, but for some reason the Pixel 10 Pro will have a marginally smaller 4,870 mAh cell, while the Pixel 10 Pro XL is said to ship with the biggest battery on a Pixel to date at 5,200 mAh, which is going to be really good for that big screen device. The Pixel Fold, or the Pixel 10 Pro Fold, gets upgraded as well, which is supposedly getting a 5,015 mAh cell. Again, another option, really nice to see. I'm personally really pleased though that charging is getting an increase to at least 29 watts via wire on the 10 and 10 Pro, while the 10 Pro XL is getting 39 watt wired charging. It was technically rated at 45 watts last year, but in real world it was slightly lower. Information's been a little bit murky on whether the Fold is gaining faster speeds for wired charging. One rumor suggests 23 watt wired, which is faster than last year, but not necessarily by a huge margin. Let's get into the cameras for a moment, because this is another divergent area that might cause some problems in how the Pixel 10 series camera setups are at least perceived. According to some rumors, there's going to be greater separation between that base model and all the Pro tier phones. Namely, the sensors are getting a little bit of a shake-up. So the Pixel 10 will allegedly ditch that 50 megapixel primary sensor, which is found on the 10 Pro series, in favor of the smaller 9A camera system. At least on paper, it might be a noticeable step down to sort of mimic the 9A's core system with the wide and the ultra wide. That means 48 megapixel primary sensor, 12 megapixel ultra wide, but the addition of a 10.8 megapixel 5x telephoto could be one of the saving graces to this particular phone. Just what justification Google has for such a step down, I think is going to be really interesting how they spin this, but looking at least from a business perspective, it could just help better separate that base model from the Pro tier, as a lot of people will look at the camera, know it's the same and probably not want to upgrade. There are no such major changes, luckily, for the Pixel 10 Pro line. They look almost identical to last year's, so that means 50 megapixel main, 48 megapixel ultra wide, 48 megapixel 5x telephoto, and 42 megapixel selfie camera. I think it's familiar, but there are some camera tricks, including 100 times zoom and macro capabilities for the telephoto joining those devices. So there are some upgrades, mostly in the software. It's the same story for the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. It has the same setup as the previous generation, so that means 48 megapixel main sensor, 10.5 megapixel ultra wide, 10.8 megapixel 5x telephoto. You have dual 10 megapixel selfie cameras inside and outside, completing that entire system. As for camera features, Camera Coach has been touted as a function for the Pixel 10 series. It is said to help you take better photos with in-camera tips for like framing, lighting adjustment, some more on top of that. AI could be a core component here, helping budding photographers improve their photography in more situations, and it is really nice to see this application of AI functionality, but beyond that, there isn't much we can really talk about in terms of camera features, at least at this stage. Other external features that I think we need to talk about is that MagSafe, yes, MagSafe, you heard me correctly, is coming to the Pixel 10 this year. making the Made by Google lineup probably the first flagship level Android device to ship with magnets within the chassis itself and not needing a case or anything like that or workaround to get this to work. You can simply snap magnetic accessories like power banks, mounts, chargers, and extras on top of that directly to the back of your phone. I think this has been on many wish lists for several years now, so I do think it's nice to see Google finally add it to one of their devices. The best thing though is that I think thanks to the work that Apple has done pushing the MagSafe technology, we now have a wealth of accessories to dive into right away, and you bet your bottom dollar we will be talking about them here on the channel when these devices do eventually launch. Away from the accessory lineup, there is also a rumor that, like the iPhone before them, Google is going to ditch physical SIM card support for the Pixel 10 series, at least in the United States. And if that is true, you will therefore need an eSIM from your carrier to use this device within that region. Global units, it seems that they're going to retain the physical slot, which still allows for one SIM card with further eSIMs for within Android itself. That might not be a problem like it used to be, or at least it once was, but it does potentially limit which carriers you're going to be able to use the Pixel 10 on in the US. So yeah, it's something that we are hoping to learn more about in the coming days. It's unclear if this is going to affect Canadian units, if it's going to be all North American or just US. We'll just have to wait and see, as I say, because why Google's chosen this option, at least as far as we're concerned, just doesn't make a great deal of sense. When we go look at the leaked software features, though, a lot has changed since early rumors surfaced about a Pixie on-device AI, or Pixel Sense as it became known eventually. In the past few months, little has really surfaced about these functions or any work on these functions ongoing. I do think if we get multimodal AI support, whatever format that comes in, it will be a really welcome addition to that suite of Material 3 expressive changes that are already part and parcel of that Android 16 QPR1 beta build. We do expect the Pixel 10 to launch with this version of Android 16 pre-installed, at least after the annoyance of last year with the Pixel 9 series shipping with Android 14 pre-installed before Android 15 was available. So yeah, hopefully they've got this under wraps and got this grip of how they do updates with these new handsets coming out with the latest available pre-installed. Some good news though about the Pixel 10 lineup is that the base model's pricing is identical to last year's. That's $799 for the base model. However, there are some changes in how the Pixel 10 Pro lineup will work. It does suggest that we're getting $100 bumps here, so that probably accounting for that 256GB base option, but we'll have to wait and see. That does mean that the Pro will start at $1,099 for the 6.3-inch version and $1,199 for the Pixel 10 Pro. I do think it's a steady climb that might put a lot of you off. There's no word yet on what kind of pre-order deals might be floating around, at least as far as we're aware. But with the Pixel Watch 4 and Pixel Buds 2a coming later in the year, or at least later down the line, it could be something like free Gemini Pro subscriptions, a little bit like the Pixel 9 series last year, or at least that might all that is available come release day. As for the Pixel 10 Pro Fold, this is a different device and a different type of device. That's starting at $1,799 again, which I think is pretty much par for the course for a device of this type. And it will go up to 1 terabyte of storage, and that will cross that $2,000 mark. Pretty steep if you ask me, but yeah, if you want that device, you're gonna have to pay for the nose to get one. So as for release date and availability, as you know, Made by Google 2025 is scheduled for August 20th. After previous launches, pre-orders did open with devices shipping just a few days later, and the Pixel 9 and 9 Pro XL from last year did start shipping on August 22nd, 2024, while the Pixel 9 Pro and 9 Pro Fold started shipping from September 4th. So we're hoping that that is a similar sort of idea of when we will get these devices. Some rumors though do suggest that the Pixel 10 or at least the Pixel 10 will ship in a similar staggered approach this time around. However, all the core hardware, which this time around includes the Pixel 10, 10 Pro and 10 Pro XL, will ship at the same time. So that is effectively or supposedly going to start from August 28th. According to early rumors, the 10 Pro Fold will be available on October 9th. I think that's a pretty strange move, but it's not completely without precedent, as last year there was a little bit of a staggered approach for device launches. It does mean if you put in a pre-order for the Fold, you're likely going to be waiting a while for your phone to arrive if that does indeed come true. The thing is, that's effectively all we know at this point in time. I know it's a little bit dry, I know it's just pure information thrown into your face, as it were. We don't have much longer to wait for August 20th because, hey, it's just a few days away. I want to ask you though, as all of this information's now been laid out, what are you most excited for? I've got to say, I'm personally really interested in this base model this year. The Pixel 10 getting a dedicated telephoto, I think, is something I've wanted for years. On a base model Pixel, I do think it could genuinely be a game changer despite some camera hardware, or at least potential camera hardware downgrades. I'm definitely excited for that one, and that blue color, I do think that's the one that I'm going to pick up. Go ahead and drop me a comment down below. Tell me what you are most excited for. And yeah, until maybe by Google 2025, I'll catch you in a bit.